These men ruined their own bodies with their own choices, and they suffered the most terrifying consequences you could ever imagine. They pumped dangerous chemicals into their muscles until their blood became thick like sludge. Some consumed substances so extreme that their organs could no longer survive without them. Others stripped every ounce of water from their bodies just to appear larger. And when surgeons finally examined them, what they uncovered inside no longer looked human. Organs breaking down, livers falling apart with the slightest touch. And believe it or not, what doctors discovered inside each of these bodybuilders will completely haunt you.
Alexa Adams found Dallas face down in his dinner. He had choked on his food. She was a professional bodybuilder herself. She was the woman who loved him, who had trained beside him every single day, who had watched him build that enormous body in a lab. And in what he himself described as his heaviest period, he was injecting enough synthetic hormone to chemically fuel the bodies of 10 normal men, not once a day, multiple times a day. His liver processed all of it for 27 years, while it slowly scarred and swelled and hardened to double its natural size. His heart did the same, both of them growing and thickening and straining to keep up with a body that had been pushed past every boundary nature ever intended. He knew this. His girlfriend confirmed he knew this. And here is what makes it so much darker. In the weeks before he collapsed, his final videos show everything if you know what to look for. His hands trembled slightly, all the way through. His breathing audibly labored between sentences. His face was bloated with fluid, and his body could no longer drain properly. Millions of people watched those videos. The comments were full of fire emojis and compliments. Nobody said a word, not one person, and neither did he. When paramedics arrived, they found 20 bottles of testosterone in his home. Rich had also battled opiate addiction on top of everything else, so paramedics injected him with a drug that reverses overdoses twice just to cover every possibility. His heart was restarted, but 30 minutes without oxygen had already done something to his brain that no amount of medical skill was ever going to undo. While Rich lay brain dead in that hospital, a bitter dispute erupted between the women in his life over who had the legal authority to make decisions about his care, his ex-wife on one side, his girlfriend on the other. A man who had spent his entire life being honest about everything ended up as the silent center of a fight nobody talks about, while machines kept what remained of him breathing. His family eventually made the call. They pulled the plug. Rich always said, whatever it takes. In the end, it took his brain first, then his heart, then everything else.
When the surgeons cut Andreas Munzer open on that operating table, they expected to find organs. What they found instead was wreckage. His liver did not look like a liver anymore. It had rotted into a sponge riddled with blood-filled holes that burst open the moment the surgeon's hand pressed against them. Pieces of it literally crumbled away. His kidneys had already shut down. His heart was barely twitching, and his blood had thickened into something dark, slow, and heavy that looked less like blood and more like something you would find clogging a drain. The surgeon performing the operation said he had never in his career seen a human body come apart like this while the person was still technically alive. He said Andreas looked like a corpse that had somehow still been walking around. Andreas Munzer was just 31 years old when this happened, and he was considered the most perfectly conditioned human being who had ever walked onto a bodybuilding stage. Now here is what it actually took to build that body, and I need you to stay with me here because this is where it gets deeply disturbing. Andreas was running approximately 20 different chemical compounds through his body at the exact same time, not one at a time, not rotating between them, all 20 simultaneously. Some of them were designed to force his muscles to grow beyond anything the human body can produce on its own. Some were designed to strip every single molecule of water from underneath his skin until his skin pressed against his muscle. And some were designed to mask the pain so his brain would not realize his body was falling apart. And he did not do this only before competitions. He stayed in near competition shape every single day of the year, which meant the chemicals never stopped. His body never got 1 day of rest from the assault. And in the final hours before stepping on stage, he would inject something specifically designed to drain water directly from his blood, organs, and cells. The goal was to look as sharp as physically possible under those stage lights. The result was terrifying. Every vein in his body bulged out visibly under his skin, and his skin itself was pulled so tight against his bones that he barely looked human anymore. He did all of that for a trophy. He did all of that for applause. In 1996, he collapsed backstage in Germany, severe pain tearing through his stomach, internal bleeding spreading fast through a body that had nothing left to fight it with. They rushed him to hospital, and what the surgeons found when they opened him up stopped them completely cold. His adrenal glands had shriveled and died. His body had been receiving so many synthetic hormones for so long that it had simply forgotten how to produce its own. His testicles had shrunk to the size of grapes. His liver was hemorrhaging through dozens of cavities that collapsed under the slightest pressure. And here is the part that I cannot get out of my head. He did not die on that table immediately. He survived the night. He was conscious at points. He was reportedly begging the doctors to make the pain stop. He lay there while his liver continued crumbling inside him, and the toxins it could no longer filter poured into his bloodstream and burned their way up to his brain. He was 31 years old, and he was dissolving alive. After his death, they searched his belongings and found a journal, years of daily entries written in his own handwriting. Every compound, every dose, every single day was carefully recorded. He had known exactly what he was doing to himself the entire time. The surgeon said he looked like a corpse that had somehow still been walking around. And somewhere behind him there was a crowd and a sport that had been cheering for that walking corpse the whole time.
In his final months, Nasser El-Sanbati was unrecognizable. This was a man who in 1997 stood on the Mr. Olympia stage and was widely believed by fans and insiders alike to have outperformed every single competitor on that stage. The judges gave it to Dorian Yates anyway. Many people in that arena never got over it, and neither did Nasser. But that body that had come so agonizingly close to the top of the sport had been replaced in his final months by something that looked like a grotesque and swollen nightmare of the man he used to be. His kidneys had stopped working completely. A machine was cleaning his blood for him because his organs had collapsed and given up trying. And because his body had no way to remove the fluid it could no longer process, the fluid built up and swelled him from the inside out. His legs bloated so severely the skin began splitting open like overripe fruit. His face became so distorted that people who had known him for years did not recognize him in photographs. And while all of this was happening, he was secretly online posting steroid advice to young men under a fake username, telling strangers exactly how to use the same compounds that were actively rotting him from the inside. The smartest man in bodybuilding, giving away the knowledge that was killing him to people who had absolutely no idea who they were really talking to. Nasser El-Sanbati was 47 years old when he died. He spoke 7 languages fluently, held a university degree in history and political science, and was called the Professor because he genuinely deserved the name. His personal steroid diary was discovered years after his death inside the private journals of another professional bodybuilder. When 2 veteran pros sat down and read what Nasser had been consuming at his peak, both of them went visibly quiet. He was taking oral steroids that are known to destroy the liver at a daily dose more than double what either of those men had ever used, and both of them had been deep in the sport for decades. On top of that, he was injecting insulin and growth compounds to force his body to absorb the enormous quantities of food he was consuming across 6 to 7 meals a day. He carried over 330 pounds in the off-season. He also had a serious infection erupt in his shoulder, so catastrophic it required surgery, widely believed in the sport to have been caused by injecting an oil directly into the muscle to artificially inflate its size. He denied it. His body told a completely different story. He needed a heart transplant in his final years. He was denied one.
His own body had disqualified itself from receiving a replacement because the damage was too extensive and too far gone. He reportedly refused to be hospitalized in his final days. For a man of his intelligence and his pride, dying surrounded by machines and strangers may have felt like the final humiliation he simply could not accept. He died in his sleep in a hotel room in Cairo on March 20th, 2013, during a visit to his family. The sport mourned him for a moment. Then the next season started. The same compounds at the same extremes kept flowing through the next generation without a single thing changing.